Let's talk about Isaiah World. Yes, that's his name, and it is awesome and is fantastic. And then we'll talk about the Jabbar Muhammad of linebackers. Potentially, I'm just saying potentially as an option. Isaiah World is a multiple-time all-conference selection offensive tackle from the University of Nevada. Now, when I sent this message out about World and why he could be a good fit, Oregon's had him on campus or is having him on campus for a visit. When I sent this out to the Locked On Ducks insiders of the world, which you can be with the link in the description below, get a free 14-day trial, priority mailbag access, and all sorts of other perks as well. One of them cleverly and accurately responded, Oregon sent a lot of guys to Nevada. It's about time they return the favor. Spot the lie. It's not in there. Their former head coach, Ken Wilson, came from Oregon staff. Sean Dollars, he was good. There have been many others as well. So it would feel appropriate, at the very least, if you brought in World. Bringing in a transfer offensive tackle feels highly logical, not destined to happen for Oregon. However, when you talk about the transfer portal needs for Oregon in 2025, offensive tackle is probably high up there, unless you can somehow pony up a big enough NIL offer that convinces Josh Connerly, I want to stay and improve my NFL draft stock for one more year. It has worked out before. Mariota did not have to go to the draft, did not have to stay for a season that became his Heisman winning year and lead him to be the number 2 overall pick in the draft. He still would have been a first-round quarterback off the board. Maybe not number 2, but he would have been a first-round quarterback, even though he'd had that injury-riddled 2012 or 2013 campaign. Still had a lot of potential. He came back. And Josh Connerly hasn't had any injury problems yet. That's the biggest counterpoint to, well, why not come back and make a bunch of NIL money from Oregon and play another college football season? Well, the biggest the injury risk is the biggest reason why he wouldn't do that. But that calculation is up to him. It's up to him and his camp and his family and what they feel is best. However, even if Connerly returns, Ajani Cornelius cannot. Insert, potentially, Ajani Cornelius round 2, which I'd be super down for. A guy who is really big. Isaiah World is in the 6'8" range. I mean, he is not a small individual. He came out of high school at 6'8", 309, according to 24/7. Nevada's got him listed at still 6'8", 309. So he's a big guy. Maybe Isaiah World could be what Shaq McCroy might become elsewhere. McCroy, by the way, transferred to Arkansas. We'll see if he's able to see the field. But 6'8", the NFL wants their tackles to be big. 6'8", that's very tall. That's very tall. But you know what? That profiles as an offensive tackle. And left tackle, right tackle, hey, I don't care. He's been Mountain West honorable mention 2 years in a row. It would be his 5th year, 2025 will be his 5th year of college football. He is in the transfer portal. So that's one guy to keep an eye on that I would be incredibly down for to stabilize. And do I think Oregon needs to add 2 tackles in the portal? No, they have guys that could be ready. You look at the way they've recruited offensive line the last couple cycles. They could have guys that they feel in their 3rd season are ready to make that jump. Janoris Wilson, by the way, gives some Josh Connerly vibes. He's part of the jumbo package, caught that touchdown, but he's played quite a bit. Connerly started out in the jumbo package and then migrated up to being a starting left tackle. So, just food for thought there. Here's more food for thought. Kamor House, believe that's how you pronounce his first name, linebacker at Washington, who Jed Fish once upon a time dubbed as the future of the defense for the Huskies. He's in the transfer portal. I would be so unbelievably down. Not for the irony factor, not for the number of Oregon fans that could troll Huskies on Twitter. No, that's not why I'd be looking at this. But it's maybe in the back of my mind. Just a bit. Jabbar Muhammad worked out pretty well. That's Oregon's best corner. He has been exactly the same guy as advertised. He is not gonzo, but he is darn good. We'll see if Theron Johnson is the next Jabbar Muhammad. But Kamor House would be a welcome addition, in my view, because he'd have 1 year of playing experience, major upside. You'd get him potentially for 2 years. He just played his true freshman season up in Seattle and had a really, really strong campaign. So now he's in the portal, and Oregon's linebacker room, it's going to thin out after this season. They have recruited that position incredibly well. But as we have seen this year, you need 4 guys. You need 4 guys at the linebacker position that you feel good about. Oregon this year, Bossa, Betcher, Jackson, Jacobs, in that order on the depth chart. All 4. If you took out Jacobs, okay, he hasn't had as big of an impact this year. He still played. He's still playing meaningful snaps regularly, not as often as he was a year ago. But at the very least, you need 3, and really you'd like to have 4. So Oregon's going to lose those guys. Connor Soley, who is a veteran, mostly been a special teamser the last couple of years since transferring from Arizona State, he's not going to be in that room anymore. You're going to need young guys to step up. No doubt about it. I would love for them to be the secondary guys and have Devin Jackson with House, who have a lot of experience and a ton of talent. Love to have them be the primary guys. So I'd be incredibly down. Just across the board. And I'll get to this more at some point as this week goes on, but there are not a lot of positions where a transfer doesn't make sense. Not because Oregon doesn't have young up-and-coming talent at that particular position group, just because, hey, do you want to rely entirely on those guys or allow them to work themselves into the fold, be heavy rotation players, but not relied upon to be starters all season long, and then the next year say, okay, this guy's ready for that? Well, that's my preferred option. We'll see what the coaching staff prefers. Got a question from James, who sent in a question, big picture, perhaps tapping into the Locked On College Football side of me here, about playoff expansion and guaranteed spots for the Big Ten or the SEC. So playoff expansion, which starts this year and goes for the next 2 years, is going to happen again. This hasn't been officially announced. It's just something we all understand. Because the SEC only got 3 teams into the playoff, and they're not going to like that very much. They're going to be really, really upset. The Big Ten got 4 teams into the playoff. And the SEC got 3. And so they're looking around going, well, why are we playing? Why do we have a great conference? Why are we right? So, the SEC, they don't like the playoff as constructed like this because Alabama and Ole Miss and South Carolina got left out. I think they should have been, but hey, my priorities are very, very different than that of the Southeastern Conference. So the good news for Oregon is that as they continue to expand the playoff, it will continue to be easier for Oregon to get into the playoff, whether they deserve it or not, whether they have had a regular season like this one or not. So generally speaking, the college football fan side of me says, please stop expanding the playoff. Like Charlie Baker, the president of the NCAA, said, well, we're looking at expanding the NCAA tournament to 72 or 76 teams. Like, I mean, it's perfect as it is. I'm fine with the first 4, but don't go beyond. You went from, 64 to 68. Like, can you just let things be great as they are? I don't know. Maybe I should talk to a therapist about why I'm so resistant to change, even though it very clearly and obviously helps the team that I am rooting for and talking about on this particular program. That is unquestioned. So with regards to the guaranteed spots, James, again, helps Oregon, but I don't think it matters a whole heck of a lot. Oregon's schedule next year, really favorable. Really favorable. Oregon's going to lose a lot. They're going to add a lot in the transfer portal. They're going to continue adding guys. But if they keep expanding the playoff, there could come a time, eventually someone's going to say, why don't we just go to 24 teams like the FCS playoffs? Oh, gosh, I would roll my eyes so hard. But in that scenario, Oregon would almost never miss the playoff. They just have to go 9-3. And sure, you're not going to make the playoff every single year from now until the end of time. But with all these moves, James, to get to the crux of your question, and my answer on it is things that I don't like about changing college football are usually very good for Oregon. And that's how I'm able to go about my day and not just be a tiny 5'8.5" ball of rage. That's how tall I am, for those who are wondering. That's how I can manage that. It's good for Oregon. Across the board. Automatic spots in the Big Ten, whatever. All right. I mean, I think it's dumb, but hey, good for Oregon. More playoff spots. 16, 18, 24 teams. That's dumb. Well, hey, Oregon's going to be in the playoff every. It'll just continue raising the expectation that Oregon makes college football playoff every year. End of rant.